20 years ago this weekend, parts of Los Angeles erupted in violence and bloodshed. It was one of the worst race-related riots in U.S. history, sparked by the not guilty verdict in the Rodney King beating trial.
John Blackstone covered the chaos back then. He says at one point the riots literally pitted brother against brother.
For 6 long days and nights, starting on April 29th, 1992, Los Angeles was a war zone.
He's been shot. We need some help. He's been shot.
These people are angry, and they have every right to be.
55 people died. 2,300 were injured. Property damage estimated at $1 billion. In the midst of the chaos, First AME, an African-American church, provided a sanctuary.
There was a sense of despair, of hopelessness, anger, and a perception that African-American life was not valued in this community.
That despair and anger had roots in a grainy video shot almost a year earlier. White police officers brutally beating a black motorist, Rodney King. 2 weeks after the King beating, a surveillance video showed a Korean shop owner shooting and killing a 15-year-old black girl. The shop owner was set free without jail time.
Not guilty of the crime of assault.
When the white policemen charged in the King beating were acquitted, South Central Los Angeles exploded. One intersection, the corner of Florence and Normandy, became infamous as the flashpoint where it all began. A picture taken by a New York Times photographer shows 2 men with video cameras recording as the violence unfolded. The men with the cameras were Tim Goldman and his half-brother, Terry Ellis.
We had just, started fooling around with camcorders around that time, and we was just gonna head out to the beach and, film some girls,
Instead, they became accidental witnesses to history. Their cameras were rolling as a local preacher prayed over one man severely beaten by the rioters. They captured the first brick being thrown into the window of truck driver Reginald Denny. Then Denny was pulled from his cab and beaten.
Oh, look at that. Terrible.
He suffered more than 90 skull fractures.
Someone standing there taking a picture.
All of a sudden, it was transformed into a war zone. That's what it looked like to me. Everything that happened in the riots in Los Angeles basically happened at that intersection. You had the looting, you had the arson, you had the beatings, you had shootings.
Tim and Terry were as close as 2 brothers could be growing up. But then Tim went into the Air Force and Terry went into prison, serving 2.5 years for drug offenses. The day of the riots, they headed down different paths again. As Tim was shooting, he caught his brother on tape, running into a liquor store to join in the looting himself.
Well, they called it looting. I never knew what it was, but I'm like, I might as well give me some beer.
I didn't scold him for it, but that was something I wouldn't have done.
The tension got even worse after authorities confiscated the videos, and Tim, under subpoena, testified against his neighbors.
I worried about the safety of my family. There were threats, and I know that what I did was surrendering the tapes or even taping the tapes was the cause of the threats.
19 years ago, Terry was interviewed by ABC News, angry that his brother's action put his own life in danger.
People were sitting out in front of the house with guns, waiting for me and my brother. I didn't like that.
Tim fled L.A. for Florida, where he's lived ever since. The two had never returned together to the corner of Florence and Normandy until we asked them to meet there this week.
This is the first time that I've been back on this intersection together in 20 years.
Tim is happy he can return to a neighborhood and a brother changed enough to welcome him back.
I felt really good today coming back, and even going on the street I grew up on, and all the friends that I've known 40 years, were coming out greeting me.
Terry says he barely recognizes the man he was 20 years ago. He credits his transformation to coming back to the church, First AME, where he now serves as an usher. Today, he's able to see a brighter future for himself and his family. One of his daughters, the little girl in purple, sings in the youth choir. Another just won a full scholarship to USC and hopes to be a judge.
Man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. My heart is just so overwhelmed.
He has a big heart. He's kind. He's gentle. And he'll help you out. Those are the qualities I see in him now.
I think Terry is a good example of how you can be one place with one set of priorities in your life and how you can grow and advance, mature, and develop.
20 years later, the images these brothers captured still define one of LA's most painful days. But for them and many others in this community, their own divisions no longer define their lives. For CBS This Morning, John Blackstone in Los Angeles.
Remarkable story that has a good ending.
So too. It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years. It's good to see how it's transformed the lives of the brothers. But when you look at the video of Rodney King and Reginald Denny, it's still hard to look at that. And Rodney King's life still seems to be in disarray. Maybe he's turned it around, but for a long time, he had a lot of problems.